283,000 fewer student jobs in 2020. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because we're going to go through this Australian Bureau of Statistics media release, which was just released today. Over 280,000 fewer students with jobs in 2020. That's a big number of students. A lot of people come over here and they have to work while they study. International students have an impact on our property sector and prop up a lot of our universities. So let's have a look. If they can't come over and work, that's going to, reduce the number of people that will have the opportunity to come here and study. And one could argue that will have an impact to universities, and that will have an impact on property. The number of people who were working while they were studying fell by 283,000 between May 2019 and May 2020, according to new data released today by the ABS. The 2020 survey of education and work collected information in the first 2 weeks of May, when nationwide COVID-19 restrictions were in place. Between May 2019 and May 2020, the proportion of students aged 15 to 64 who were employed fell from 59% to 50%. ABS Director of Education and Training Statistics, Stephen Nicholas, said this reflected a general drop in engagement in work or study between May 2019 and May 2020, with full-time engagement dropping from 66% of people aged 15 to 64 in May to 63% in May 2020. The decrease was mainly due to a fall in people working full-time, from 51 to 49%, said Mr. Nicholas. Due to fewer international students, there was also an overall decrease in people studying for a Certificate 3 or above. This is particularly noticeable for 20 to 24-year-olds, 41% compared with 44% in 2019, a drop of 66,100 students. There was also a fall in apprentices from 5% of 15 to 24-year-olds in May 2019 to 4% in May 2020. Young people were more likely to be not working or studying at all, rising from 11% of people aged 20 to 24 to 16% this year. That's nuts. 16%. I mean, we're hearing about youth unemployment, but now not even studying. This could leave scarring for a generation, everyone. The survey also showed that 1.4 million people were studying at higher education institutions, and just under 500,000, 475,000, were studying at technical and further education institutions. So let's jump here and have a look at the data that they've released. So the key statistics. 63% of people aged 15 to 64 were engaged in work and or study. So that's down from 66%. 18% of men and 20% of women aged 15 to 64 were studying. Nearly a fifth of the population. 69%, 20 to 64, had a non-school qualification, with women now overtaking men 68%. Uh-oh. When are we going to hear all the people yelling, screaming about that? There you go. When will all the feminists look? It's not equality. Uh-oh. Quick, calm down. 74% of 15 to 74-year-olds with a qualification were employed. So, the impacts of the survey. The Survey of Education and Work, SEW, was run during the first 2 weeks of May, 3rd of May to the 16th of May, as part of the monthly population survey. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, various restrictions were in place at this time, which are likely to have impacted the survey results. Initiatives to help reduce the spread of COVID and support the economy included international travel restrictions, border closures, measures for some states and territories, shutting down of non-essential services, economic stimulus packages, free childcare for working parents, and social distancing rules. In particular, international travel restrictions and the impact on net overseas migration resulted in decreases in some key subpopulations of the survey. For example, the number of people currently studying for a non-school qualification. Care should be taken when comparing SEW 2020 data with results from the previous survey years, particularly for populations that are likely to have been impacted by the pandemic. So, engagement in employment and education. In May 2020, 4 in 5 Australians aged 15 to 64 were either fully or partially engaged in work or study, 80%, or 13.2 million people. Including people still at school, almost 2/3, 63%, were engaged full-time, that is working full-time, studying full-time, or both working and studying. This compares with 66% for the same year last year. Overall, it was more common for men, 75%, than women, 52% to being fully engaged. However, rates for young men and women were similar at 85 and 87%, respectively, for those aged 15 and 19, and 72 and 70% for those aged 20 to 24. There was a decrease across the younger age groups in the number of people who were fully engaged in 2020, but this was most prominent for men aged 20 to 24. 72% were fully engaged, compared with 79% the previous year. That's a big drop. That's a big drop. The drop in the rates of fully engagement for young men aged 20 to 24 was primarily driven by a drop in full-time employment, with 42% of young men this age engaged through full-time employment in 2020, down from 46% in 2019. So we're seeing the unemployment affect young men more. That ain't good. That's going to have social consequences. And particularly for women wanting to find a partner. Women tend to marry up, guys. That's part of reality. You got to deal with it. You got to work for it. So here we go, full-time study, and there's 19, 20. You can see men. Well, it looks like we've been going. Yeah, everything's down. Even for women, everything is down. The decrease in full engagement was also seen across all states and territories, with similar changes occurring in Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia, and New South Wales. So engagement of young adults. Most young Australians aged 15 to 24 were doing at least some work or study, or a combination of both, 88%, or 2.8 million people. Around 78% were fully engaged in work and or study, including those still in school, and a further 10% were partially engaged. However, proportions of young people who were not engaged in any employment or study increased in 2020. So 12% compared to 8%. That's not a situation you want to find yourself in. Engagement of young people employed in a study. So we can see males not engaged has gone up, females partially engaged, females not engaged has gone up. Everything's gone up except for females partially engaged, that's gone down. Males fully engaged has gone down, and females fully engaged has gone down. More young men were not working or studying in May 2020 than at any point since the beginning of the time series in 2004. Damn, that ain't good. The proportion of young people not engaged in any employment or study by sex. I mean, there you go. Everything jumped up, but look at that. Engagement of people aged 25 to 64. There was also a decrease in engagement for Australians aged 25 to 64, but it was not as marked as that of young people. There you go. This is going to impact the younger generations more, everyone, this economic damage. Remember, the recession is just beginning. There was also a decrease. Around 53% of people aged 45 to 64 were fully engaged in work and or study in 2020, compared with 55% at the same time last year. This change was also largely owing to a drop in full-time employment for men. 66% of men aged 45 to 64 were primarily engaged in full-time employment in May 2020, compared to 69%. There was a drop in partial engagement for women, 30% in 2019 to 28% in 2020. 28% of people aged 45 to 64 were not doing any work or study in 2020. Wow! Compared with 25% at the same time last year. Well, what are these people doing? This is 18 to 14% respectively. Could this be age discrimination in the workforce, guys? When you're over 45, you're old. Males fully engaged is dropped. Females fully engaged is down. Partially engaged, down for men, up for women. Down, down, up, up. Males not engaged. Females not engaged, up. That's females not engaged. 45 to 64, 31%. 31% of the population in that age group are not engaged. Could that be because they're working from home? Perhaps maybe they're carers, primary carers at home. How would that be considered? That could be why. So, current study. Overall, 18% of men and 20% of women aged 15 to 64 were enrolled in study in May 2020, with 12 and 15% respectively studying for non-school qualifications, a certificate, diploma, or degree, and the remainder enrolled in school. The proportion enrolled in May 2020 was similar to May 2019, 18 and 21%. You can see here. So currently studying for a non-school qualification. In 2020, 40% of people aged 15 to 64 were studying for a non-school qualification. We're doing a bachelor's degree, 18% were doing postgraduate studies, 19% were doing Cert 3 or 4, 57% were studying for a bachelor degree or above were women, 57%. Women also made up 53% of people currently studying for a certificate, diploma, or advanced diploma. Overall, 12% of people aged 15 to 64 were studying for a Cert 3 or above, down from 13% May 2019. This decrease was particularly noticeable for 20 to 24-year-olds, 41% compared to 44%. The most popular fields of non-school study for women were society and culture. There you go. See that one? That's the most popular one. That's why there is a earnings gap. Right there. Okay? Right there. Management and commerce and health. For men, they were management and commerce, number one, and then engineering and related technologies, which doesn't even rank in the women there. This is why there's an earning gap. And then society and culture, only 15%. There you have it, guys, right there. That is why there is an earnings gap. Don't believe any politician or anyone, in the world that tells you otherwise. Because this is a choice. More women are actually studying than men. There you go. Around 445,100 people were studying science, technology, engineering, or mathematical fields in 2020, with 72% of these students being male. A further 450,000 people were studying the STEM-related fields of architecture and building and health, while architecture and building students reflected the gender split of students in STEM fields, 76% to 21% women. This is reversed for health, where there were 73% women. Well, I wouldn't say, is that in the architecture course? Yeah, I think it's right. A lot of women tend to go to interior design. Currently studying in STEM or related fields by sex. We can see that there. I'll let you go through that. And we'll go through younger students and school leavers. So non-school qualifications by state or territory. You can see here what percentage they are. Non-school qualifications by sex and age. And what I will do is I will link to this if you want to go through the rest of the data here. But I think the gist of it is we can see the significant number of decrease in employment opportunities for students and how that's taking a hit. So non-school qualifications and employment, particularly while they're studying. I worked while I studied. I did a flexible full-time course at the Queensland University studying architecture. My entire university full-time load was on one day. We had an 8 a.m. day to an 8 p.m. day. And then I had 4 days I could work in an office. It was fantastic. It means you came out earning money. You had a full-time job pretty much. Because you did, in 4 days, you could do a full-time week's worth of hours. You just stayed back. And you're pretty much going to stay back anyway, because you're a professional. That's what you have to do sometimes. So it was the best of both worlds. So employment rates were higher for people with non-school qualifications, of people aged 15 to 74 years with qualifications. So 74% were employed in May 2020 compared with 49% without qualifications. More men worked full-time, 67% compared to women, 42%. More women worked part-time, 28% compared to 10%. And I'm assuming that's just to do with choice and flexibility with particularly raising a family. That's reality, guys. That's why, you want to get a qualification that can give you that flexibility. Men and women had similar rates of underemployment, 9% each, or unemployment, 4% and 5% respectively. Women were more likely to be neither working nor studying, 26%, compared with men of 20%, and more likely not to be in the labour force, 26% compared to 18%. Okay. Non-school qualifications by occupation, skill level of job. Okay, of the employed people aged 15 to 74, professionals were more likely to have a non-school qualification, 93%, but there was a minimum of around 40% of qualified people in every occupation. So managers, male, female, What's this? Non-school qualified. Okay, 73%. Professionals, majority of women, had qualifications 94. Technical trades, 76. Clerical and administrative, 65. Sales, 51. 43. Yeah. And machine operators and drivers, 41. And laborers, 42. Most employed men and women aged 15 to 74 with a non-school qualification worked in skill level 1 jobs. The highest skill level, including occupations such as pharmacists, architects, school principals. Okay, am I in that, hey? More men, 21% than women, 6% worked in skill level 3 jobs. Plumbers, hairdressers, and butchers. While more women, 27% than men, 17% worked at skill level 4 jobs, receptionists, delivery drivers, and miners. And honestly, I reckon you could make more money as a butcher or a plumber than as an architect. At least you'd get access to all the good meat. Although a butcher across the street, he works bloody hard. Skill level of main occupation by sex, skill level 1. Okay, so you've got more women. There you go, at this skill level. Interesting. Skill level 3, much higher men. Skill level 4, much higher women. There you go. What's 3 again? Do they say that here? Plumbers, hairdressers, butchers. Yeah, well, there you have it. More of the trades. So there it is, everyone. An interesting insight into just education, employment in Australia. One of the biggest takeaways is the huge crash in international or in student employment and the impact that can have on property and international students. What do you think, everyone? Did you work while you were a student? Could you actually manage to study while you were working? Or could you study if you couldn't work? Could you afford to do it? And would you consider doing some study now, maybe reskilling and looking at new opportunities? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using any of our affiliate links you can find down below from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from Teespring or the HeiseSays blog, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.